Okay, this is going to be part 1 of Federalist number 9. Federalist number 9 and 10 are very important. When we were working on Federalist number 8, I said Federalist number 8 is extremely important. And I mentioned that most of the scholars, most of the historians that talk about which one of these Federalists are extremely important, they don't mention number 8 because America is already united. So with that in mind, they just don't see the importance of number 8. But for our purposes, since we are talking about thinking of a federal system to unite the world in the future and learning from the experiences of countries like United States, Canada, India, Australia, European Union, Brazil, Nigeria, Germany, all those countries that have experimented with federalism. There are more, okay? There are more countries, but the most important ones, I think, are United States, Canada, India, European Union, because of the diversity. But we can learn some from all of them, whether it's Switzerland, whether it's other places. So they never mention number 8 because the country is already united. But for our purposes, since we want to unite the world, okay, one of the most important things is to let people know what they already do know on a gut level, but maybe they haven't thought about it as much. That if everybody in the world stops spending so much money on their armies, military, and warfare, preparing for warfare, with a small percentage of that, we can do so much for humanity. So the first step is, just like number 8 says, unite so that you have a very small army and not have a big standing army, because standing army always translates into dictatorship, tyranny, and not so much freedom, as we see in the world right now. Because when 2 countries or 3 countries are almost in a state of war, the government always dictates, shut up, don't say anything, because we want to be safe. And you can see that around the world right now. I don't have to even give you examples. So number 8 is extremely important. So is number 9. Why is number 9 important? Because for the first time, Hamilton talks about things that are extremely important for our freedoms to be secure, for our liberty not to be taken away haphazardly, for the rule of law. These are extremely important, and these are the very important institutions that have been built into the Constitution to make sure nobody exceeds their constitutionally given power. So these are checks and balances, division of power, independent judiciary. Now, he says it by other means. He says a judiciary that can serve during good behavior. In other words, as long as they don't do anything criminal, as long as they don't do anything outlandishly against the Constitution, against society, against the integrity of the system, they'll be in place. Then another name you will hear, and another concept you will hear, which is very important for us, it's the name of Montesquieu, the French philosopher who had written The Spirit of the Laws, which was mentioned more than any other book during the Constitutional Convention, and even later on as they were going to ratify this Constitution. So we'll look at his ideas, actually his main idea, the idea that a republic can be established in a small space, in a small geographical place. But Hamilton here mentions the phrase enlargement of the orbit, which is something Madison is going to focus on Federalist number 10. But it says no, a republic doesn't have to be small city-state. It can be a huge place, and we'll show you why. So these are some of the extremely important concepts for us to have a government that's friendly and protective of freedoms rather than destructive of freedoms. So keep that in mind. That's where number 9, Federalist number 9, is important for. Look at United States right now. Trump became president. Trump got elected. He has that tendency that if he knew actually he could get away with murder, he would. He would crush the other branches of government, and he would do everything that he wants to. So if there was not a division of power and checks and balances, sometimes if by accident somebody who is not fit to be in office enters office, at least you know that because other branches can hold him back, make sure he knows what the limits are, okay? Had we not had this, then he might have just taken the power that's given to him and just push and force his will on people, and who knows what kind of state we would have. The division of power. I tell them, this is the part that you need to stick to. This is where the Constitution says you have power to do. But here are the things you cannot do. If you overstep your boundary, we will impeach you. So these are extremely important. You're seeing it in action. He got elected, and he was just going to push and have this dictatorial strain that's in him, and who knows what would have happened, but there was a pushback. You have in this Constitution the First Amendment, which is the Constitution, which is part of the Constitution. And all of a sudden, the journalist found out they were not dead, because for the longest time they were acting like they were dead. So they're pushing back, and they're doing their job, or at least trying to. So this is what makes this system great. Now, don't get me wrong, I'll be the first one to tell you, just like I just said, Trump had no business being elected. So there's something wrong. But that's something we're going to talk about. You know, let me give you this example before we start reading the first paragraph of Federalist number 9. You know, there are those times as human beings that we don't rest well. We are just something in our mind. We don't eat right. And then this goes on and on and on. And then your immune system shuts down or becomes so weak that any little virus, any little bug can make you really, really sick. I think that's what happened in the United States. The system had major issues, but because of party politics, because unfortunately the election cycles, election campaigns has been corrupted quite a bit by money, where corporations have a lot of say in this system and people feel powerless. So for 2-3 decades or so, this body politic, the body of United States government, had become weak. Just like we human beings, if we're weak, we don't get enough sleep, and we can get sick like that. And that's what happened. This body was so sick because of this last 3-4 decades, because of the corruption that's come with money entering politics the way it has. And this tiredness caught up with America, and somebody like Trump entered office. He got into office, he didn't force himself in there, but he took advantage of what was dividing America, what people were irritated about, and also made this imaginary enemies, and unfortunately some people fell for it. As I've already said, a small portion of Trump's base, they're just bigoted, racist. There's nothing you can do about it. Mother Nature has to take care of them. But majority of them, they're not. They've seen their government not work for them, and they've seen rich get richer, and they're hurting, and they're waiting for somebody to say, I can help you, and they believe him. And at the same time, you've got issues of socially conservative people, and they felt like there are certain things that they don't agree with, so they wanted somebody to maybe nominate conservative justices for the Supreme Court. So all of these go hand in hand. So we'll talk a little bit more. Thank you for paying attention, and we'll continue with first paragraph of Federalist number 9 soon.